everyone watching this video probably already knows what the Dark Pictures is. You know, games, horror, choices. That's pretty much it. So, I've decided to go through some of them and ask myself the question, can we beat it without decisions? And so, I decided to start with the one, the only, the worst in the series, Man of Medan. The rules are pretty simple. I can't make any choices. I have to let the timer run out or select the option to say nothing. QTEs are allowed, however, as I see them more as like performance checks than anything else. Also, I decided to play the Curator's cut version of the story and on lethal difficulty because I want to get better at PC controls before Directive 8020 comes out. The game starts with the average American pastime of drinking and occupying a foreign country. After seeing a woman for the first time, Charlie wants to try out his skills on a karate dummy, showing her what's what. After somehow making like every single QTE and getting an achievement, yay, we get our fortune read through the tiles that we, of course, ignore, as we sit there and let the timer run out. Except that it doesn't run out. Yeah, so much to my surprise, you actually have to make a decision here. You can't just wait for the timer to run out. Which is unfortunate because it was the very first decision of the game. So, that was fun. Anyway, I decided to awkwardly point at the water tile because, I like to stay hydrated. And with that, we get a tile showing us a beautiful flower that apparently symbolizes evil. Somehow, over the span of like 10 minutes, both Charlie and Joe got exceedingly drunk and began to argue over just 50 cents. Which, to be fair, back then was probably like $1 million. After walking around, trying to kill time, and learning that I absolutely hate the controls for this game, good old Joe comes by to rescue us. We both move on to the lower levels to explore the ship further. After walking through the ship and barely escaping the amateur doctor, we see that, unfortunately for us, our brother-in-arms have died mysteriously from what is probably the flu. Yeah, that's probably it. After arming ourselves with a gun and knife, me and my bestest friend dive further into the unknown. Luckily, Joe's always got my back and will never leave my side. He left my side. Anyway, with Joe, the love of our life, dead and gone, we find no point living outside of stabbing random people. And so, we go out doing what we love the most as the prologue comes to a close. We then get our introduction to the Curator through that super annoying intro of that very bad song, Hate Supermassive. Please take it out before Directive 8020, I beg of you. I have a family, I have kids, I have a whole life ahead of me, I don't need to see it again. He welcomes us to his repository, and actually has different dialogue for returning players specifically playing the Curator cut, which I actually really appreciate. I don't care for this game for a lot of reasons, but I do really appreciate the amount of branching that goes into it. There's a lot of choices and there's a lot of consequences, and I think it does that pretty well. We then cut to the year of our Lord and Savior, 2019, as we are introduced to Alex, one of the most boring characters in the entire anthology, which is saying a lot. We then meet his little brother Brad. They talk a bit about the trip, and after what is one of many awkward pauses due to saying nothing, Alex asks Brad for advice on an important question, one involving a ring, a box, and the love of our life. Brad advises us to go with our gut, which will later heavily affect the relationship between Alex and his girlfriend, Julia. Speaking of, we unfortunately get introduced to Julia, as well as her Iceman look-alike brother, Conrad. Julia kisses us, and he is excited to see us again, and even asks if we miss her. We say nothing, of course. She then teases us playfully about our dive, asking if we're able to keep up. And again, we say nothing. I'm not gonna lie, I hate picking mean options in choice-based games, so a doing nothing challenge is kinda hard to do. I don't like Julia, like at all, but it still sucks just completely blowing her off and ignoring her, especially in the context of, being her boyfriend. Nonetheless, everyone settles in for a bit as we get our final playable character, and the only one with a lick of common sense, Bliss, the captain of the Duke of Milan, as well as my heart. Once we get deeper into the ocean, we retrieve a dive cam from the water and look through it, finding an old World War II plane that had submerged under the water. Fliss then recommends that, they be respectful of dead people's resting places, and to call the authorities to report the wreck so they don't get arrested. Which, of course, makes her a
nerd.
Uncharacteristically, Conrad remains completely silent as Julia and Alex shoot Fliss down and decide to go diving anyways. Damn the consequences. We look through the dive cam and find a hole in the tail of the ship that others can use to enter the plane itself and explore. We then walk around a bit, talking to who we can. Although it's obviously more of not talking to who we can, but starting conversations anyways, and just being silent. We also explore Julia and Alex's master suite, where we see a book referencing the best game made by Supermassive. Yes, I absolutely fucking mean that. As well as some perfume that we actually leave outside the cabinet. A surprise tool that'll help us later. We have yet more awkward silences while somewhat talking to Julia, who then later tells us to keep it in our pants, completely unprovoked. Why, if I didn't know any better, I would assume Conrad has a record of being a womanizing asshole. Conrad then immediately confirms my suspicions with dialogue I know for a fucking fact I wouldn't choose. I walked into Alex hoping to push him into the water, but unfortunately it didn't work. After a little more exploring, Julia and Alex gear up for the dive and head on down into the deep down, dark blue, deep down, dark blue, blue down, deep down. After ransacking a veteran's resting place and for some reason not being concerned about multiple dead bodies, we cut back to Conrad and Fliss. Conrad offers Fliss a beer that, let's be honest, was probably spiked. Thankfully, saying nothing means he eventually gets away from us. We then go to talk to Brad, who's still recovering and resting after a beer with Conrad. Did he actually put something in the beer? Oh my god. Conrad's disgusting theoretical behavior aside, we have a very one-sided conversation with Brad. So one-sided, we stay completely silent for 3 whole dialogue prompts, and then just leave. Heading back up top, we, for some reason, make the unfortunate mistake of starting a conversation with Conrad. That takes a turn for the worse as he is somehow super insulted, despite the fact that we have not said a single word to him. I guess that's what we get for being a woman. Thankfully, the tension is cut through when some fishermen run into the diving line, putting a hole in their boat. They get aggressive and try to start a conflict, but luckily we have Iceman here to show them what's what, with his myriad of apartheid cash, flashing bills at them for the simple reason of pissing them off and trying to boost his ego somehow even more. Soon enough, the fishermen leave and Julia and Alex return to the surface. But we notice that they came up too fast. Almost too fast. Oh, I already said that. That's fine. We have another beautiful tea party with the Curator, who shares his thoughts on our characters before cutting back to nighttime, as the 5 of our intrepid adventurers discuss what they found inside the plane and decide to go there the next day. They all turn in for the night after a nice cold beer that almost everyone partakes in, including Julia. That's foreshadowing. Kind of. But we then go to sleep, and thankfully, nothing bad happens. Until something bad does happen. The fishermen from earlier board our ship and hold everyone hostage, talking to each of us individually, with Brad hiding and Julia, Alex, and Conrad together, forming a plan and slowly escaping the restraints. Conrad is taken up top the ship, and after some light roughhousing, Conrad devises a plan to sneak around the side of the ship while Alex attacks one of the fishermen. The plan being that if we had the gun, they'd surrender. And because we have no input whatsoever, it was Conrad's choice as opposed to the players. We get the jump on one of the fishermen. Thanks to the perfume bottle from earlier and some help from our brother Brad, we come back up top to see that Conrad got his ass beat in what I'm pretty sure is record time. And for the first time in his life, Conrad stands down. He lets go of his pride, and admits that they have them beat. But unfortunately, deciding to do nothing, meaning that Alex doesn't let go of Danny, which results in Olsen shooting our girlfriend, grazing her forehead, and leaving her pretty pissed at us, honestly. The 5 of us and our kidnappers are kept below deck as tensions rise. Unfortunately, the sea level does as well. Water comes flooding in and we have to make a choice. Do we help our brother Brad, or the love of our life, Julia? The answer is neither. Eventually, Fliss calls for us, and we just go outside anyway without any player input, and we come face to hull with the one, the only, the SS Orang Medan. The Curator congratulates us on having everyone alive thus far, which to be honest was a big surprise to me, but hey, I'll take all the validation from old men that I can get, you know what I mean? We are now crossing into the dangerous Act 2 territory. We started off with the 5 main characters and their 3 kidnappers forcing us onto the ship, and worst of all, taking the distributor cap, which the boat needs to function. As we enter the ship, specifically ignoring Julia feeling sick, we see that the place is abandoned, almost like a ghost ship. We're pushed farther into the ship by our kidnappers, and are eventually held captive in a room, which we escape, surprisingly fast. Running for a while, we see the distributor cap placed onto a box by our beloved kidnapper. Fliss and Brad climb down to go get it, but are unfortunately caught as the 5 of us are split up. Fliss and Brad are led down some corridors at gunpoint by Danny. After being scared by some bags, we eventually run into a creepy skeleton that Danny insists is still on the ship. Deeper into the ship, we see Danny begin to see something Brad and Fliss can't. He panics and runs off, leaving behind his signature hat. After seeing my second favorite jump scare in the game, we are unsurprisingly separated as Fliss gets attacked by spooky zombies that I'm sure aren't metaphorical for anything at all. We eventually escape them by the skin of our keyboard, but as we almost make it out, we see Brad being taken by the zombies somehow, and we make a decision. Do we save ourselves? Do we risk our You already know. You know the point. You read the fucking title. You know. I'm just gonna shut that door now. We transition back to see Alex, Julia, and Conrad exploring the ship further, finding a kitchen, a knife that I didn't pick up, a room of caskets, of which I didn't look at, and a medical bay, where we actually did find something super useful. Half-century-old pills. Dylan would approve. After prescribing the super meds to Conrad, we all leave the medical bay only to find that Conrad is somehow completely separated from us. Julia calls out his name as Alex stays completely quiet, not noticing in the background a silent predator waiting to strike. We then cut back to Fliss in the oh-so-extravagant ballroom, exploring as little of it as possible before getting some fresh air in our lungs. We go back inside to find that the ballroom has completely disappeared, and in its place lies the real world, a rusted, rotting ship with a crate of leaking chemicals. Cutting back to Brad, we are trapped in a PT wannabe hallway as we find a bullet lodged in a soldier's sternum. We find another bullet, and another bullet, and then another bullet that eventually turns to leeches by way of, magic or something. And then soon enough the soldier's body turns into our brother's as he begs us for help. We succeed the first QTE but fail the second one because pressing the S key is for beta males. Pseudo Alex then climbs on us and slams onto our chest, waking us up and freeing us from the Hideo Kojima hallway. We find our way to just above the room Fliss was just in. We jump down and land only to see a zombie walking towards us, trying to get a fist bump. But because Brad has a very real fear of fist bumps, we run away. Back to Julia and Alex's misadventures, we cross a walkway until Olsen slams down his hammer, knocking us into the water. We're about to drown until someone saves us. He then saves our girlfriend, and to show thanks, we choke him out. But of course, because I'm smart and intelligent and brilliant and handsome, I know not to choke the poor guy because, he just tried to help us. Just because he's ugly doesn't mean he should die. Alex and Julia make it back onto dry, metal, and our hero is thrown back up and chokes up water as someone in a familiar outfit chases us. To break up the pacing, we go back to Fliss as she finds Conrad talking to himself, going full Josh Washington mode. We accidentally scare him while trying to help, but have to run, or speed walk, through the ship to go find him and help him calm down. We find him and keep chasing him up a ladder. Luckily, I paid attention in climbing class, so I knew just what to... Oh no. Oh, that's not good. So yeah, Fliss is, as the kids say, down for the count. Kaput, even. But, luckily enough, the other 4 are reunited after Alex and Julia barely escape Olsen, and we find shelter in a small part of the ship. The Curator mocks us for Fliss's death as we enter Act 3, the final portion of the game. We cut back to the Americans trying to make sense of everything, but because I looked at maybe 4 clues this entire playthrough, they had no idea what was going on, and stumbled on their words when they even had a chance to say any. Moving on, Alex makes the brilliant deduction that they could use the radio on the ship to contact the army or some sort of outside help. We make our way up there and try to get out a message to the military, but, of course, we can't make any decisions. So, we lose our chance. We just said nothing. That's all we did. To find the generator and restore the power and glory to the radio room, ambitious Alex and brave Brad go searching, before falling through like 3 floors. After jumping down a broken ladder, the brothers somehow deduce the fog that we've been seeing this whole time is causing us hallucinations, causing us to see things differently or to entirely fabricate monsters. A twist that every single player had picked up on 30 minutes into the game. After deducing the entirety of the lore in like 3 seconds, we make it to the generator and are able to switch it back on. Conrad then gets a message out, giving the army our coordinates. Alex and Brad look for another way back up top and find the rebreather from the boat. We get the decision to take it or not, but because we say absolutely nothing, we just move on, leaving it behind. After finding Fliss's body and getting over it a little too quickly, we find the distributor cap with Olsen, who seems to have also gone full Josh Washington mode. We hide and eventually run from him until we can make it to safety. That safety quickly runs out when Junior, one of the fishermen from before, holds the 2 of us at gunpoint. And I don't want to talk about what happens next, but the situation resolves itself with Brad and Alex unhurt. That's the easiest way to put it. After hearing the gunshots reverberating through the ship, Conrad jumps down the hole to go save them, finally taking responsibility and attempting to clean up the mess he made with just a few dollar bills. We see Olsen running across a walkway as Brad and Alex follow him. He makes it to cargo hold 2. Brad swims under the water to catch up as Alex stays behind. We make it to the entrance to cargo hold 2 and open the door. Water floods in and a live wire stops us from wading through water as Conrad and Olsen confront each other on the walkway. Olsen threatens us and bashes a barrel of oil, knocking it into the water. Sparks begin to fly as flames blaze and tensions rise. Brad grabs some debris and threatens Olsen, demanding he hand over the distributor cap. Olsen swings wildly, but thanks to my expert reflexes, Conrad is able to nab the cap when Olsen isn't looking. He dodges swings as Brad bludgeons him with the shrapnel. Conrad decks Olsen in the face twice, causing him to fall to the ledge, holding on for dear life. We do nothing as Brad drags us away, distributor cap in hand. We get one final interaction with the Curator before the credits roll, and we get an extra scene. The 4 of them rest on the side of the boat as Julia clutches her chest in pain. Blood pours out of her mouth. Nitrogen bubbles form in her bloodstreams as the Benz overtakes her. Julia came up too fast. She drank that single beer. Julia dies as her story finally comes to a close. So yeah, that's it. Fliss and Julia died. Wasn't a challenge, but it was fun to see what would happen. Thank you everybody so much for watching. If you liked the video, or even disliked it, let me know in the comments. Subscribe, share, do whatever you please. And remember, make good choices.